Hello everyone, this is Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got a large storm system bringing a round of severe weather, including tornadoes, followed by heavy snow and an Arctic blast. So let's take a look at the overall temperature anomalies for the last 2 weeks. And this has been an impressive cold snap for November standards, to say the least. You can see predominantly almost pretty much the entire nation here was actually below average, if not well below average, for the last 2 weeks. But if you recall how we started November, most of along the western regions started off colder, while much of our central and eastern 2/3 started off on the warmer side. But once we hit around the 11th time frame of the month, it's been predominantly on the colder side. And I do feel with December approaching, that actually might end up kind of in the same fashion. So let's take a look at the overall setup going forward. First of all, I appreciate all my followers out there. This channel is actually up to 130,000 subscribers. So I appreciate each and every one of you who watches all my daily content. If you are new to the channel and hadn't subscribed already, it's free to do so. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content and detailed weather breakdowns, so you can plan ahead and know what to expect. So let's take a look at the overall hazard index with the upper level low that we've been tracking for days now. That's really just parked itself over New Mexico and West Texas, dumping some heavier snows for them. It's finally going to be on the move. So we do have some flood watches in place for further portions of in South Texas, but it's going to have some winds along with it as well. So we do have some wind advisories and high wind watches up down here into portions of Mississippi and Alabama. That's going to traverse northeast over the next 2 days, but we're already starting our next storm system that's coming back into the Pacific Northwest with some mountain snows, and they've got some high wind watches for them as well. But there's that upper level low that we've been literally tracking, still producing some sporadic snow showers out here in West Texas. But out ahead of it, you can actually see all the heavier rains finally moving out of the Houston Metroplex, now extended into portions of Louisiana down here, into portions of East Texas into Tyler. It's moved out of Dallas. Now it's lifting all the way into Oklahoma City. But that low will actually traverse over the Dallas-Fort Worth area this afternoon. That'll kick off another scattered shower opportunity, but then finally move away and lift northeast. But at the same time, there's that other cold front that's coming in from the Pacific Northwest. You can see some sporadic snow showers this morning into Reno, all the way north of Pocatello, Idaho. But that's got its own cold core source with it as too. So this one's going to be lifting off to the northeast, followed by a little bit warmer conditions on the backside, while we have a new awaiting cold front coming in from the northwest. So let's take a look at the overall rain going forward just for the next 2 days. So you're talking between now and Monday morning. This is where the storm system, as it's going to be finally lifting out of Texas, it's going to have some what they call convective banding to it. So you can see the graph on the right hand corner of the screen. Some of these are going to be pretty what they call training thunderstorms that are just kind of training like train tracks over the same area. Typically you got to have a kind of little bit of convergence zone there and have a dry slot just on the north side of that. So you can pick up some very heavy rains. That's why we're seeing some sporadic flood warnings in some of these locations. But yeah, there's another pocket of higher rain amounts that could kind of train over the same areas into portions of Missouri, Illinois, as well as Indiana. But yeah, just look at the graph in the right hand corner of the screens. As this continues to lift off northeast, it's got some decent rain amounts in its wake. And there's that other storm system that's coming in from the northwest. Most of this will actually fall in the form of snow into the higher elevations. But it's got some warmer temperatures once this system moves out, and once we go into Monday timeframe, we've got the southwest winds coming out, and we're going to be starting to see really rapid temperatures increase. Actually, some above average temperatures for the first time you've seen in the last 2 weeks, right? At the same time, we've got a new impulse of Arctic air coming in from the northwest. Look at those temperatures. These are highs. These are highs on Monday, guys. This is in British Columbia of -8 degrees. So that's the beginning stages of some true Arctic air that's going to be kind of pulling up there into our northwest zones. But here's the setup on the surface map heading into Monday afternoon. That system in the northeast will be finally lifting out, but we'll be watching that new storm system that's coming in from the northwest with the Arctic high pressure back behind the 1041 Arctic high, pressing the cold air southbound, dumping some heavier snows into portions of Oregon, getting into portions of Northern California, then rain along the coastal regions. But that snow includes portions of Idaho as well as into Montana heading into Monday afternoon. But once we get into Tuesday, we still got temperatures rapidly surging from the south side. There's the demarcation line where that cold front's going to be, right? We got well into the 70s. That's a far cry what you have now for a good chunk of the deep south. But look at the intensifying Arctic blast. It's coming of -16 degrees. These are high temperatures with single digit highs coming in from Montana. That will continue to traverse southeast, and we're going to be setting up a clash to the south side and could be looking at some severe storms heading into Tuesday afternoon, especially Tuesday night time frame. So here's the overall setup on the 500 millibar wind speed. We got a powerful jet, another low pressure center going to be coming across. Look, as it comes across, we've got 103 knots. That's going to be screaming from the west to the east. At the same time, we've got our 850 millibar winds at the lower levels, creating that shear. So you're going to have some higher elevation winds screaming across from west to east about 103 knots, and then you got lower elevation winds at 60 knots. That spells trouble, guys, with those winds changing in directions. That spells trouble with those elevated temperatures increase. You got elevated dew points in these areas, and the instability will be on the increase. And there's where we have the initial setup of some severe storms where things could be rotating. Here's the updated NAM just kind of coming into that time frame. This goes out only 84 hours, so it does pick up that noon time frame on Tuesday. So I think this is the beginning stages of some rounds of severe storms that is going to be originating essentially kind of just maybe east of the Houston Metroplex into Far East Texas, but really getting its act together once we get into Louisiana, into Arkansas. And that's where we do have not only that slight risk for severe storms, but also an enhanced risk for severe storms. This is pretty rare to see. In fact, it's so rare it's never actually even happened in November timeframe. This is the first time ever they actually put out a day 5 enhanced risk from the Storm Prediction Center. So this is definitely rare. It's happened in most other months, if not all the months, but just not actually. This is the first time in November. So, but yeah, this is kind of goes to show you they're pretty confident this area is going to be at least an enhanced risk by the time we even get into Tuesday timeframe, and we're like literally 84 to 90 hours out. So that's definitely concerning, and because typically they don't like to lower these things. So if anything, it's going to stay the same or actually be intensified as we get closer to this time frame. But you know, down here into Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night, down in the Houston Metroplex to Tyler, to Lufkin, to Beaumont, all the way into Jackson, lifting all the way into Memphis, but really in the middle into Little Rock, heading into Shreveport, Vicksburg, Monroe, Alexandria. All those areas will be under the gun for damaging winds. We're talking all 3 modes of severe weather, some very large hail, damaging winds. And yes, I showed you the rotation. Unfortunately, the winds are going to be rotating. So we could be looking at several strong tornadoes within this sector. So I'm definitely going to be fine tuning this as we get closer to this event. But to the northwest of there, we're going to have some heavy snows. So you saw the cold air pressing from the northwest, and it's got some true Arctic air behind it, with some snow going to be flying into Colorado by then, but it's going to have a good swath of snow. We're going to be entering portions of Nebraska, heading into South Dakota, and probably the first really decent good snows into portions of Minnesota, heading into Wisconsin as the same time we've got that severe storms breaking out on the south side. But here's kind of your lightning displays as we get into Tuesday afternoon. This is around the 4-5 o'clock time frame. Again, we'll be fine tuning this, but the initial instability will set up right here in far east Texas, heading into Louisiana, getting into Mississippi, Alabama, western Tennessee, Arkansas. Those areas will be on high alert for those severe storms as we head into Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night time frame. But going into Wednesday morning, that thing's going to be on the move. So right now it's kind of too far out to show if there's enough to be concerned of at least a slight risk. But I do feel, by the time this event gets closer, that most of this instability will at least be on the marginal side, if not on the slight risk side for severe storms, as this band will be moving across a good chunk of the southeast, heading through the Ohio Valley. We could be looking at maybe a dusting or two, not much to speak of in the portions of Oklahoma, but really the heavier snows will be further to the north where that low pressure is, right? By then, it's going to be lifting northeast. On the south side, you get all the rain. To the northwest side, you got all the snow flying into Wisconsin there, heading up into Canada. And there's that storm system out from the northwest going to be entering the Pacific Northwest with those heavier snows entering that region as well. But back behind it, this is some wind chills heading into Thursday morning. So just gives you an idea of this first initial strong cold front going to be back behind it, as that cold front wipes away all the instability and brings those 20s and 30s and single digit wind chills. But where the Arctic air, definitely the coldest air of the season, 42 below zero in British Columbia. That's some serious stuff, guys. In Western Canada, with minus 30s and minus 20s, a lot of them showing up on the map here. So that's true Arctic air, and by far the coldest of the season is going to be definitely pulling up there into our northwest region. So things do get interesting once we get into, say, that December 1st time frame. So here's the overall setup. So as this continues to lift northeast, probably going to be cold enough we can wring out some snow showers in the upper peninsulas up here into northern portions of New England, but especially into, say, Toronto and Montreal, up here into Canada, and where the snow is going to be falling, where you saw there's plenty of cold temperatures, right? There's plenty of cold temperatures. We're going to start off with mostly rain on the coastal regions of Washington and Oregon, and heading into northern California, transfer to some heavier snows moving into our Pacific Northwest. But things get interesting going into that December 2nd through maybe the 5th time frame. So we're going to have a southeast ridge starting to develop to the southeast side. And you saw the Arctic air coming in from the northwest. We're going to have a battle zone in the middle of the country. So let me give you the breakdown. So here's the overall setup on the North American view on the 500 millibar. So here's your battle zone with the southeast ridge really starting to amplify as we head into those first couple of days of December. To the northwest of there, we've got a ridge, right? So this is going to be fairly significant. We're cold right now in Alaska, but by the time we head into December, that things change rapidly with this ridge of high pressure going to be building over Alaska. That sets cold pooling underneath, and look, it really starts to deepen. I showed you some of those wind chills, dangerously cold, 40 below, if not colder than that, down below. So that's really going to be setting up a cold pooling. At the same time, we've got an east-based NAO starting to develop just on the east side of Greenland. So that's fairly significant, guys. So here's the setup on the NAO. We basically remain on the flat side between now and, say, that December 3rd time frame. Then the bottom drops out, setting up more of a blocking setup. And then for you guys that live in the Northeast, has been waiting on some snow, this is definitely a good setup for your snow lovers out there. So let's highlight this going forward. So the initial stages, we've got some true Arctic air that's building into the Pacific Northwest with that cold pooling. I picked out Seattle, for example. Look at the downward projection going forward once we hit that December 3rd time frame, we've got highs. We're going to be struggling to get above freezing, even in the Seattle area with a low of 14 degrees. So that's definitely chilly stuff for them as that cold air continues to press. A little bit further south, I highlighted the Portland, Oregon area, right? So once we get into Portland, a downward projection, highs potentially in the 30s as we hit into that December 3rd, December 4th time frame, with lows freezing, if not a hard freeze in some of those areas. So let's check out the snow. There's going to be plenty of snow going to be flying in the upper regions and the mountain regions. But check out Vancouver. That's over a foot of snow. Most of this falls as we get into the December timeframe, but this is between now and next Saturday, over the next 7 days. And yeah, look at that. We could be looking at a couple inches even in the Seattle area, and even maybe a dusting down here, maybe an inch of snow even in the Portland area. So that gives you an idea of some of these down here in Spokane of over 5 inches of snow between now and the next 7 days. But beyond that, here's the setup, right? So let me break this thing down for you. So I showed you the beginning stages of that cold pooling, the beginning stages of the ridge developing over the top with the well above average temperatures building into Alaska, that negative NAO coming back into play. That builds the ridge over Greenland that creates the funnel effect. So in the beginning, we're still going to have that southeast ridge kind of dominating, setting up that barrier with the cold pooling to the northwest of there. But once the NAO turns negative, those temperatures will dive east. So they'll start to go down into our northeast regions while we still have the barrier on the south side. But as that cold air continues to press, it finally will win out with the ridge and the much above average temperatures developing over the top, sets the cold pooling underneath, and that barrier breaks once we get past, say, the 8th of the month of December. And then most of the US, if not all of the US, will be feeling the effects of that cold snap by then. So, and there's the overall snow. So it just kind of gives you an idea. I don't like to show you snow amounts of, past 2 weeks or so, but this is the next 2 weeks to kind of give you a step down process of this setup. As the ridge develops over the top, we'll have more snow starting into our western regions. As the NAO goes negative around the 3rd, that snow line will press southbound, as the cold air will press southbound as well. So, and even then, by the time we get closer, I think some of this even further down in our southern regions will start to fill in by now. But yeah, I do feel the snow will be coming for the Northeast at least, but this won't actually be until, again, around after, say, the December 5th time frame, with that negative NAO really starting to develop by then. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.